Welcome to the Florida Divorce Podcast, your source for the information you need to successfully get through your divorce and into the next exciting chapter of life. Now, here's your host, Attorney Scott Kalish.
Hey everybody, my name is Scott Kalish and I am a divorce and family law attorney here in South Florida. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. Today, I want to answer this question. Will you have to pay your spouse attorney's fees? Now, this is a question that I get all of the time. I guess when two spouses fight about divorce and they're talking about starting a divorce, they threaten each other, or usually it's one spouse threatening the other spouse saying, hey, if you divorce me, or when I start the divorce, you're going to pay all of my attorney's fees. So I want to answer that question. I want to give you more information on as to whether or not you're going to have to pay your spouse's attorney's fees. So let's get into it. So the analysis of attorney's fees and one spouse paying the other spouse's attorney's fees, it's very, very similar to the alimony issue. Now, if you've listened to a previous episode of my podcast, you'll know that alimony, like attorney's fees, depends upon two things, largely, right? Someone's need and the other person's ability to pay. So those two things have to be true before a judge will order you to pay your spouse's attorney's fees, right? So let's break them down. Let's first talk about need, right? So this comes down to money at this person's disposal, right? Does this spouse who's asking for attorney's fees, do they have the cash to pay an initial retainer, to pay, an hourly fee for a lawyer to handle their case, right? So a judge is going to look at their income and the money that they have at their disposal before granting them attorney's fees. The other thing that has to be true is that the person that is being asked to pay attorney's fees, they have to have the ability to pay, right? So their income has to be, at a level where they could afford two attorneys. Or they have to have, other property that they can use to pay for attorney's fees, right? That they can sell or they can liquidate to pay for attorney's fees. Something that you really need to keep in mind when you're thinking about ability to pay is that the property that they might have to liquidate or sell can be non-marital property, right? It could be property that they acquired before the marriage. I know that doesn't seem fair, but under Florida law, a judge can look to someone's separate property and say, hey, listen, you have $100,000 in your retirement account. You have to pull, $10,000, $15,000 out of there to pay your spouse's attorney's fees. So that's something that you need to keep in mind when contemplating whether or not you're going to have to, pay and sort of measuring your exposure here on this issue. There is a process to this, though. This isn't like an automatic process. If a case is started and one spouse just simply doesn't have the resources to hire a lawyer or for a lawyer to stick around long, then the lawyer that has the spouse with less money, they're going to have to file a motion for temporary attorney's fees, right? Because it's not automatic. A judge ultimately has to enter an order on this, requiring the one spouse to pay the other spouse's attorney's fees. So that's done through a temporary relief hearing. And that can take several months. It can take a few months for a variety of reasons. For example, if you're in Palm Beach County, Palm Beach has a rule where the parties are required to mediate before they can even ask for a hearing, right? So that means that the parties have to try and, get a mediation on the calendar. They have to, get both attorneys to attend a separate mediation just on the issue of attorney's fees before a judge will even hear the issue. And judges are so busy right now that it's very difficult to get on their calendar, right? So if you're asking for 30 minutes, likely you're not going to get a date for 60, 90 days. So in Palm Beach County especially, right, you have to mediate and then you can ask for a hearing date. So, sometimes, attorneys don't have availability to set mediation for 45 days out, 30 days out, right? So you have to, get a date coordinated on the mediation first and then attend mediation. And if mediation is not successful, then you're able to schedule your temporary attorney's fees hearing, which is, could be 90 days after that, right? So it's not automatic. Again, it's really tough sometimes to push these matters through because so many boxes have to be checked, right? So attorney's fees are, is definitely an issue, but it's not automatic and it takes time. Keep in mind that once a judge orders temporary fees in a case, there's a possibility that a party can get additional fees paid after trial, right? Which are called final attorney's fees. If it comes out that one person continues to have a need for attorney's fees and the other party has an ability to pay those fees, or maybe one party had to borrow money to pay attorney's fees, and after trial, a judge determines that they should get that money back, a judge has the ability to award someone final attorney's fees. And that's determined at the actual final hearing, at the trial. That will be one of the issues for the judge to consider. So that's the issue of attorney's fees, both on a temporary basis and on a final basis. Remember, like I said, it largely depends upon someone's need and the other person's ability to pay. If you like this podcast, please give it a 5-star review. I hope you got a ton of value here and you have a better understanding of attorney's fees in divorce cases. If you have a question about attorney's fees or another topic about divorce, please feel free to ask it. And if you give me permission, I am happy to answer your question on an upcoming podcast. So please email me at scott@kjlawfla.com. Again, scott@kjlawfla.com. Thanks and have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Florida Divorce Podcast. To learn the 10 secrets behind every successful divorce, visit floridadivorcepodcast.com. If you'd like Scott's help in your divorce case, go to kjlawfla.com.